All right, welcome everybody to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people.
You are listening to the USDN on the DFPN.
It's a trap!
All right, what is up, everybody? I have a whole gang of people today coming on, so let me introduce them to you one by one, and we will start with a perennial favorite around these parts, and that is Amanda Rivas. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's always a great time being here. And you know me, I'm never going to turn down like you. I don't turn down a good conversation about Star Wars.
Never, and if I do, there is something wrong with me. Send help. All right, who do we have next? I know who we have next. He is a BC plus first round, first ballot Hall of Famer. We all know him from the Pop Break, and basically he's everywhere and anywhere if you know where to look. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bill Botkin.
What's up, man? I love this floating X-wing cockpit background. I'm like, this is great. It makes me feel
Goes
like
with the theme. But if you get nauseous, please,
I'll just
off camera.
It's all good. Amanda, we're back on our mini tour like we did a year ago.
We are. And I was like, it just worked out that way. But that's
It's like we just seen each other last week.
Yeah.
But a year ago, we were on this podcast with you about Echo.
Mhm.
Yes.
We did socially distance, and then we did BCP plus for the Royal Rumble, and we're going to be doing it again this year. So
we can't start the new year without going on our tour.
yeah, we can't burn ourselves out anymore. Come on, let's go.
So we got one more guy. I said we were going to have a new guy on tonight. Want to introduce everybody to our newest cancel member, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children and all ages. He is a school teacher at heart and a podcaster by night. Mr. Randy Allen, welcome to the show.
Jeff, thanks for having me. And also a pirate by night, as you can see. I'm coming at you from Tack Renaud's lair.
Does he know you're in his lair?
Oh, he knows, but he's not getting in because I'm nestled behind a whole pool of acid. I am booby trapped. I am ready to go. I am all yours for this entire show. Cannot wait to dig into it.
There's no one who's ever going to be nestled behind a pool of acid like Randy Elaine. What I gotta tell you, he's like a puppy in front of a fireplace.
Wasn't so rotted, but
well, you do have that one glorious ham.
Oh
maybe.
yeah,
You brought ham.
Totally
You brought a ham sandwich to the party.
It's a rum ham.
All right, everybody. So we're all here tonight we're going to start off with James Gunn's Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, and his first animated adventure into his Gods and Monsters chapter with Creature Commandos. So me and Amanda covered the first half of this already, so we're going to focus on the back half with starting with episode 4, I think, is where we'll start with. So I know Randy, I just put him on the show over the weekend, basically. Randy, what were your first impressions when I said, hey, check the show out?
So Creature Commandos has been on my radar because I've been hearing people hyping it up ever since James Gunn took over. And I was like, that sounds cool, but I didn't throw it to the top of my list because I've been on a journey to, fill in my DC background, get to know my DC comic world a little bit better. But the hype has been real. My Media Lit co-host Chris Ingersoll is a huge comic guy. He was really pumped for this show. I know he's been loving it. I was just chatting with him before I came on here to tell him how much I enjoyed the show. But yeah, I was seeing these characters for the first time, and I'll be commenting on this throughout the night. But they carried me away not only through good storytelling, but as an English teacher, like all the big themes surrounding monster storytelling
Yep.
and the humans being the real monsters through these characters, I think they hit on every major version of that story, and it was just a treat.
So this is a question for everybody. How did y'all feel with them giving us the backstory of each character and fitting it to work in the present show where we were at per episode? How did y'all enjoy that with the flashbacks to the characters and how they became who they were? How did y'all like that? Amanda, we'll start with you.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed it. I thought because sometimes when you take this approach, it could go awry depending on it's here. We see this a lot in anime where you have a ton of filler that introduces characters too long, and there's no point. It doesn't ever circle back. Boruto, I'm calling you out. And then you're just like, well, what was the whole point? What I loved about this was you got each character's backstory. For those who were not familiar, like I was not very familiar with Creature Commandos outside of, I knew who the bride was. It's like pop culture context, right? For certain characters. So, just being able to get the backstory, and they were really, really well delivered, well done. They were done in a way that made you get attached to the characters, that made you care about them. And then it all came together in terms of the decisions that were made, where the story went. And so I feel like they were meticulously done, and there was a strategy behind it. And that way, when we see them in future projects, you know who they are and you care. And that, again, very, very well done. And more anime should learn how to do that.
Amanda always stills the show with answers like that. Randy, what did you think?
This is like my favorite style of storytelling. My love affair with podcasts started because I became a huge fan of a Lost rewatch podcast. And Lost wasn't the first show to do it, but that was the structure that put that show on the map. And while shows have stopped trying to be exactly like Lost, they are still using that format. And whenever it's employed properly in any genre, it takes off and it works and it hits for people. Even if it's, I'm blanking on the name of it, that show, the Mandy Moore vehicle there that just wrapped up. This Is Us.
This Is Us. Yeah.
This Is Us.
I was going to say Tangled.
That was the format for that show. It's a totally different. But yeah, totally different genre and audience. But when you can ground a present moment in that past history, it's really powerful, especially for a character I didn't know how to wrap my mind around, like the Weasel. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's going to be the very first one we cover. His was heartbreaking. Jeez, they started it with, Bill, what'd you think?
So, Amanda, going off what Amanda said, there are times where it's just you're building towards this climax, and they're let's take a detour down a backstory, and sometimes that works. For example, Watchmen did a great. Speaking of Lost, that was a Damon Lindelof vehicle, and other times it's when you detour from the main plot, it doesn't always work. We saw that in Mando. We saw that with Boba Fett. We saw that, and we've seen it Game of Thrones had its problems as well. But sometimes it really hits. One of my favorite Westworld episodes was when they go back to Zach McClellan's character. He's a warrior, and they go and tell his entire story and how he got to here, and then how he gets into Westworld. And it's one of the most powerful stories going, and then it ties really well into the ending. So, but by doing this, it's beautiful because with a team of characters, like Amanda said, characters you don't know, you need to find it. But James Gunn knows how to do that. He knows how to be here's how this backstory is going to perfectly tie into this episode. And man, He
It
does a
worked
beautiful
every
job.
single time. Every single time he made it work. And another show that did it really well, we covered on our last show, Amanda, with Agatha. The way they did it was really well done.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
So let's jump into and talk about the Weasel story. That was episode 4. Talk about pulling some heartstrings, his story and how he ended up where he did. And just the story that was given versus the actual story and the drastic difference between the two. That was one of those that it left me like, man, that's fucked up. The Weasel's actually a good dude given a bad rep by bad people. And that goes back to what you said, Randy, with who's the real monsters here. So how did y'all feel about his story overall? Like, was that what y'all expected from his story? Because I was kind of running with the like, oh, he killed some kids, and that was the complete opposite of actually what happened. Amanda, we'll go with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I expected it to be very good because again the bride story setup was really good.
Yes.
I think I want to say Dr. Phosphorus was right before Weasel.
Dr. Phosphorus is
he was after.
is later.
He was after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like, for me so far to that point, the bride story had been one of my favorites. And so I knew that it was going to be well done. I just didn't expect it to be as emotional as it was and very heart-wrenching. And I feel like it was one of the better stories that connected to the main plot in terms of here's what happened with this girl that's imprinted in his memory. And he sees that in the princess. And it influences his decision to go and just blow everyone's cover and just cause chaos. And I thought that was a really well done tie from the emotional moment to, okay, here's how this all ties together. And I think it was one of the better backstories that did a great job of doing that.
I don't think A Walk to Remember had a backstory. That was just
I haven't seen it in so long.
That was a Mandy Moore vehicle. I think that prompted
that was Mandy Moore, wasn't it?
It was 100%.
Yes.
Wasn't that her first
very first movie
film?
post her music career? Yeah. Everybody had a crush on Mandy Moore then. I don't care what y'all say. Y'all had that crush. Thanks for bringing up good memories, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, Randy, how'd you feel? Actually, no, Bill, sorry. Bill is really wanting to chime in.
Sorry, it's the caffeine or lack thereof. I thought that the Weasel story I knew was going to be as tragic as it was going to be because one, James Gunn does love a furry creature to have a background that's so tragic, and also his brother plays the character, so I figured he's going to be kind of tragic. But they kept saying he killed all these kids, and it kept changing, and I'm just like, no, he never did, because it was a very, very, it's easy to blame a monster to do something like that. And we didn't really see much of Weasel's, like what he could do, and I think, like Amanda said, like him tying back to the princess at the end, reminding him of the little blonde girl with blue eyes that he was trying to save was a great moment to show the humanity, like, and that would come into the emotion that all three of our surviving creature commandos have. Like that scene at the end where Phosphorus puts his hand on the bride, and that showed how human they were and how Nina really had impacted all of them. Like we talked about, I think it was just like Nina was like, she didn't do much, but she actually did change them.
She did more than
But yeah, and then it's just James Gunn doesn't hold back. We see like they just shoot a kid.
Yep.
Too, which is like, that was the part, I think that was the most tragic part. It's like you see these two guys just come in there and they just
start blasting,
have no regard for anyone who's there.
All right, Randy, over to you. It's fresh in your head, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, like we've got, Amanda Waller is the perfect villain because this organization sucks. Like they know that they are messing with the bounds of morality, right? Like the whole concept here is like, well, they're not really people. But it's really hard to make that case the more you get to know each of the characters. Weasel is the one. It's maybe the easiest to argue that he is not human, because we don't really get like his full backstory. Like, we find out what happened with the kids. We still don't really know, if we're non-comics readers like myself, where he really came from. But we know that
I don't
he
even think it's really
has a
ever been
heart.
explored in the comic either.
But the thing, in addition to the story of the kids and seeing him connect with the kids, it was that we have his defense attorney showing up, making this case for his humanity, referring to him like his sir, Mr., calling him Joe by like this human name, and she sees something in him. And yes, it's humorous, and it's hard to continue to sell it as he's licking his crotch every 3 seconds, and those eyes are going googly in the sides of his head at any given moment. But yeah, even the Weasel is human, and I mean, he makes the most like heart-based decision in the closing moments of the season, right? He's following his heart. So yeah, really effective.
Jeff, I have to give you kudos for having Randy on here, because for those who've not listened to Randy, or I highly encourage you guys to check out Media Lit. He's one of the most thorough people, like attention to detail. He's just one of the best people to have a
for the
discussion.
end of the show.
I'm
Amanda.
sorry, I know, but I have to put him over now. I can't help it. Like Randy is just.
It's all right.
I'm just excited to even selfishly have this chance to even talk with Randy about Creature
This
Commandos.
is why Amanda is such a best bud to everyone in the world. You are
It really
always
is.
lifting us up. So thank
So-
you.
She
one
is
of
the
those
big
where-
sis of the podcast world. And Randy, to
really
quote the
is.
Big Lebowski, Randy is a good man.
Yes.
And thorough.
Yes.
That's just like your opinion, man. No, I'm just
Yeah,
playing. Randy.
I really
like
bring
you a
the
lot,
I really
man.
bring the room together.
You do.
Um,
You do.
Yes.
You do. I like that.
You bring us all in Tack Reynolds' lair, and I'm here for it.
So for the past few months, me and Randy have been going back and forth on like, hey, we're gonna set something up. We're gonna set something up. And finally, I was just like, damn it, Randy, we're doing this show on this day. You're coming on. He's like, okay, well, let's come up with something for you on my show. I'm like, okay, what about this and that? I'm like, you know what? Let's just circle back later.
Yeah.
So we're gonna circle back later on. I'm gonna come on the Media Lit later. But this episode is the one that, like, this one and the last one really are the two that I was like, damn you, James Gunn, hitting me in my feels. But
Yeah, man.
because
Well, he does.
for those who don't know, this show picked up immediately following what happened in the original Suicide Squad. And then it just like the very next, this happens next in that ongoing thing there. So, but we're going to go on. The next episode we got the Frankenstein episode, actually, where he was nursed back to health and later reprieved her of her life, we'll say, as he continued on his journey to find his bride. So, and also this is the one where we find out Cersei's visions about the princess were false, because Clayface, we get our appearance by Clayface, took over the original doctor's identity. How excited were y'all to see Clayface in this? And yes, I'm petting a cat like I'm an evil mad scientist. Look at this pretty face. Do you not want to pet her too? You gonna go? Yep, she's gonna go back to playing.
She made her appearance.
She did. I saved everybody the embarrassment of having to look at her butt, because that was the very first thing she would have done.
Same.
Would have honored the
We know,
Weasel
Bill.
segment.
It really would have, because she does that. Like, they both will do it. Give it time. The other one will make his appearance as well. Bill, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah.
How cool is it seeing Clayface make his appearance in this?
It was cool, but also a little head scratching, because this was one of the issues that I had with Creature Commandos. But I'll get to the negative, the positive before the negative. Clayface is one of my all-time favorite Batman the Animated Series villains,
Same.
played by Ron
Alan
Perlman.
Tudyk.
Ron Perlman in the original series,
Yes,
and then
yes.
brought back. I don't know if anyone watched the Batman animated series that was on Amazon. That was terrific. There's
I have not
Clayface
seen it yet.
That's
That's on
right.
my
You
to-do
can
list.
easily.
Thank
You
you,
live
Calvin.
in the
Yes.
house.
Oh, hey, Kelvin, what's up? Yeah, I have to do my homework now for a Royal Rumble podcast because he's on it. And Amanda, but we have our separate homework. And it's like all these different interpretations of him as an actor. And then they announced Mike Flanagan's doing a Clayface movie. I've never seen any Mike Flanagan work. Doctor Sleep, Bly Manor,
Yes.
House on
Yes.
Haunted Hill. Whatever.
Phenomenal.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Fall of the House of Usher. Oh, great stuff.
Dude,
so I'm
The
excited.
House of Usher, man. Oh,
I got through 2 episodes. I had to stop. I was just
dude, did you not finish it?
No, it was a little too intense.
No, go back. Oh, you got to go back.
Yeah, there's a
That's
long.
one of those where
Amanda knows that history of the long list of the shows Bill has to finish.
But anyways, we'll move on. We got
but
distracted.
it was great to see the character there because it didn't make sense at first. Just like, why is this Stephanie Beatrice character like all of a sudden goes from so buttoned up to just screaming lesbians to my favorite reaction from not Amanda's favorite reaction, which is great, but like Frankenstein going, well, that's not very professional. Like, I don't know why that just like sent me sideways, but I loved seeing the character, but it adds to something we'll talk about later, the motivations of the princess by impersonating that. So it's cool within the world, but within the finale is a little murky for me. So excited, but I had a couple issues with it.
Randy, what'd you think?
Yeah, I don't have as deep a history with the Clayface character, so like I think
Randy,
on the simple
for you, this character is like.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, what I was gonna say, Bill, is like I agree with you. Like that Caped Crusader version, I really loved. Like all these different takes on the failed or the struggling actor. So here he's firing up the Xbox, which was kind of a fun gag and joke. So I liked it on the level of like, okay, we're bringing in this Batman world to this property that I'm less familiar with. So in terms of that thrill, I love a crossover. That got me excited. And like we'll get to this when we get to the Dr. Phosphorus episode, but that opens in a moment that feels like Batman the animated series. And of course we get like the flash of Batman later on. So in terms of the world getting bigger, I loved it. But yeah, not as engaging as other takes on the character I've seen.
Amanda.
I enjoyed seeing him. I did. I also grew up a Batman animated series kid. Loved him.
Did. Yeah.
We all did. We were raised right. In a good time. And it was great to see him, but I wish we would have gotten more. It just felt sometimes a little bit, I'm kind of on I'm there with Bill. I wanted more Clayface and I wanted a little bit more of a reason why he was there. Sometimes I felt like I don't think the intent was for him to be kind of a gratuitous promo, or like a gratuitous, like, hey, here you go. You wanted, you guys wanted a cameo. Here you go. But I'm sure there's a purpose. If it was treated
like that, though, that was a good one to bring in that would fit with what he was doing with this series.
And it wasn't a bad. It was not bad. I'm glad we got him. I just wish we had gotten more and a little bit more of, especially with the way the finale ended too. It left a lot more questions than answers. And I'm sure hopefully when we get the second one, maybe we'll get a better backstory. Maybe we'll get more Clayface. I just felt like his appearance was abrupt. And it was like, here he is. Oh, that's great. Oh shit, he's gone. I wanted,
and he's never really gone though.
Yeah, but I wanted him to come.
Just kind of like the Sandman,
Yeah, this is true.
Drinking beers, running through crowds,
hitting on the spots and screaming lesbian at the top of our lungs. But so, how did y'all feel about this? What they did with Frankenstein in this episode, and kind of like, I don't want to say it was a chapter of his life that, in the way they did it here, I don't know how I felt about it really. You know what I'm saying? Like, it felt like it didn't really fit with what they were doing with the rest of the series, if that is making sense at all. Probably not. Like, the way they did his backstory with him getting nursed back to health after being nearly killed. Well, he can't really die, I guess. But, and then, killing the person who helped him. That was very on par for Frankenstein from the comic book as well, by the way. Just the random, like...
Right. But what was
today.
your issue with it in the series, though? That's curious, because you say...
It was this episode, the way they did his backstory, and I'm not really saying that was his backstory in that one episode. It just didn't feel like it provided the same substance as the other like flashback sequences did for the other characters. I think we got more of his story during the Brides episode than we did in his own episode, if that's making sense.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like,
But I think it's intentional though, because
I'm sure
because so it's David Harbour, and who doesn't love that guy? And Amanda, what's the best line he said throughout the whole thing?
You filthy piece of shit.
I'll have that. I'm gonna have that etched on my tombstone. It's just saved his family from a sinking ship. That filthy son of a bitch.
Tenenbaums reference. Bravo.
Yeah, well played.
It is because it's David Harbour, so it's like we genuinely like David Harbour. He's very funny. I think it's done this way because it's like he is not redeemable. He's trash. Like he's
a horrible person.
I'm sorry, I have
a creature
behind me. Is he's stalking the bride. He killed this woman who is obviously trying to save him. He's not a good guy.
No,
and so I think that's why it can't be as impactful, because we don't want to say we can't sympathize with this guy, even though we want to, we just can't.
Yeah. He's an incel given creature powers, right?
Yes.
And I was a little surprised when he killed his caretaker at the end, because it did seem like she opened up his eyes a little bit to, you can take in the world in different ways and see beauty in different ways. And when I was trying to explain it to myself at the end, I think it came down to he is so set in these beliefs about how he thinks the world is supposed to be structured that he was like, oh, she was not hunting with this shotgun before I came in, so now she's not going to survive. And he seems to be selling it as a mercy killing. This woman can't be left alone or it won't be an okay existence for her. I'm not here to take care of her. And it shows how manic and controlling that energy is. On a whole new level, even beyond him chasing the bride.
Yeah, because the bride is solely his. She was made for me.
Yeah, they definitely undercut it with humor too. When he was he rips Victor von Frankenstein in half, and then we go on this musical montage of her beating him up through generations.
Yes,
which is funny, but I think
it's also not funny.
Yeah. Who's the point? Amanda, you've never met a guy like that before in your life.
No, not at all.
How did you feel about Frankenstein?
Oh man, I had some flashbacks with
You've told me
he showed up. Yeah, I had a type in my 20s, y'all.
You don't say.
I mean that's why the story works.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
All right, let's.
I just.
You were into guys who were sewn together from different cadavers? That's wild, dude.
No, that actually would have been better than some of them. But... I'm not afraid to throw shade here, y'all. I'm not afraid at all. Some of y'all are watching on the live stream. You're welcome.
Wild.
You're welcome, y'all.
For those who weren't around in the early 2000s, this shit was wild, y'all.
Yeah, I'm just saying, y'all. But in all reality, though, to Bill's point, I think it was very intentional because, David Harbour is a very likable guy, and there are moments where, the humor in this, from him, again, we're best friends. Are we best friends? I'm like, man. Sometimes
his
you have those
interactions
conversations
with General what's his name?
With Rick,
Rick Flag.
Great.
Yeah,
with Rick Flag Sr. were great, and it's just
that episode was phenomenal with just the two of them.
Yeah,
when they discovered Clayface, that was amazing.
Well, and you're supposed to. I feel like remember he's unredeemable too. That was a great point to Bill's point. I'm here for that. Because again, with the humor, you find out he's likable, and no, he's actually kind of a terrible person. Yeah. But I think too, you're supposed to have sympathy for the bride because she is going to be the leader, and eventually, and they're setting up for this conflict because eventually, from what I understand, Frankenstein is one of the creature commandos too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're
Yep.
setting up for that future dynamic to work to kind of see where that goes, and it creates, can they coexist and carry out missions and all of that, and that's setting up the dynamic for people who maybe are not as familiar with creature commandos and maybe have the only background they have is what we've gotten in previous works involving Frankenstein and the Bride. So you're getting this narrative, the storytelling built, and again, you see the bride. You're meant to see the bride as strong, independent leader material. Who, yeah, she's done some terrible things, but you like her.
Yeah,
Him
but the terrible that she did was for
was yeah.
better reasons
It was for
than what
exactly. And I
Frankenstein did.
exactly, and I think that was the point.
Yeah.
Was you're supposed to buy, it made you buy the bride more as a leader and be more involved in her
She
story.
also seen through bullshit.
Yeah, but you need you need that foil, if you will, or you need that
Yes.
character to make that known, and you really sink into her story because of how crappy of a person he is.
Yeah.
But yet the humor mixed in too, and his personality, you also have to accept him as part of Creature Commandos. So you can't go too far off where you're like, I can't accept him at all, he's horrible.
Mhm.
I kind of have to like him a little bit to buy him as part of this
Right, like at the
dynamic.
end,
So yeah, it's
at the end of the day, they're both the twisted creations
Yeah.
of Victor. And like, as much as the bride had some feelings for him and she wants to go back for that necklace, it's pretty fucked up that he like built this woman, like referred to himself basically as her mother, like raised her, and then he's like sleeping with her. Like, I suspect this version of the bride can see how screwed up that is now as well, even if it was a happy time for her in some
and you
ways.
kind of got that in her flashback episode as
So.
well, where she was kind of like, I think it finally, like, finding the necklace itself was kind of like,
Mhm.
and then when it broke, that's when she was kind of like, you know what, this probably wasn't my good situation I was in here either.
Yeah.
So, but let's go to probably, as far as the main core goes, this is probably one of my, he's up there for me, and that's Dr. Phosphorus's episode. And basically we find out that he had been taking money from the mafia to fund his research, and basically they come for his money, I believe is what it was. They stick him in his own machine and nuke his ass. Only it didn't kill him.
You left at the part where they horribly murder his family.
Yes, there was that part too.
Horrible.
Yes, I forgot all about that.
I mean, that might have been a good thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
They did kill his
Let's get
family
myself
and
out.
then nuke him, expecting it to kill him, which it did not. Instead, we get this awesome, character in Dr. Phosphorus now. And this dude, a special human. And perfect for this team. I mean, is he leadership material? No. But is he there with the bride, like, hey, we have the mission. Let's get the mission done. So how did y'all see Dr. Phosphorus for, like, because his one thing is like his family. That was it for him, and that was taken from him, hell bent on revenge. He gets his revenge and then goes on this almost trying to think of another Batman character that kind of did something similar to this. I know the Penguin had done it a few times where they just, like, a night out on the town that just never ends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Before eventually getting captured. So for y'all, I know this was y'all's introduction to Dr. Phosphorus. How was that for y'all? Like, getting to see him for the first time and getting introduced to this character?
He was beautifully drawn.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm used to having one person. I got 3 on tonight, so I'm having to direct traffic.
He was beautifully drawn, for one thing. I just loved, just stunning right off the bat, how vivid his colors were and everything. I think just one of the most well drawn or well illustrated characters on the show. Alan Tudyk is amazing. I mean, just right. I mean, they just nailed everything with how they just brought him to life. His backstory, I mean, just you could see how much he loved his family, and then to lose his family in such a brutal way, and for them to pay the price for his actions, it's a lot. And seeing that play out on the screen is and it just really sets up for how dramatic the shift is when he becomes Dr. Phosphorus and just
Yep.
lives the party that never ends, and gave us, you know, a meme that went viral with the reel that went viral for forever with the dance.
Yep.
But I mean, I thought it was really, really well done, and it gave you a good insight into his character, and you know, just the fact that he's just not afraid to melt people's faces off. I was like, you have some brutal ways to kill people, and
Yeah.
wow. But I mean, seeing what he went through, though, you kind of, it's terrible, but you kind of get it. It's that primal
Mhm.
rage. I mean, what do you do after you lose everything? You
Yeah.
just you go on the bender that never ends kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like, you have to
He
find some
did.
way to
Yeah.
bury that pain, and you know, but then now he's channeling it for a different reason, and he's definitely one of the most effective team members on Creature
Yep.
Commandos. So I'm here
Yeah.
for it. Let's
But how did y'all
roll.
like? Because he could control himself, like because you see him playing with this child outside of the house there. And he's like tossing her up and having a good old time, and she's not getting burnt. And I'm like, wait, I thought he could just. I'm like, does he have that much control over his own self to where he can turn it off and turn it on like that? So I thought that was really cool as well. Randy,
He
over to
seems to be
you.
able to rock the wardrobe when he wants to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but no, like I really wanted to just yes and Amanda, right? Because like he's lost everything, he's got nothing to lose. That makes him the perfect scary monster. He's got a permanent mask to hide behind. He looks like he's
Yep.
smiling whether he wants to or not. But I think there was another thing driving him. It was the anger and the vengeance, but it was also his wife said, "You don't have to do it this way. You
Mhm.
don't have to go about it this way." And he knew that she was right. He tried to pawn off some bullshit data to the mob, got himself in too deep, couldn't get himself out of it. So when he takes on that persona, when he goes after Rupert Thorne's gang, he's like, yeah, I am the criminal. I invited this into my family's life. I made it happen. So I think it's vengeance, but also guilt, because he knows that he did it and she knew better and she tried to warn him. So I love that, but that makes him the perfect tool now for this government agency.
If I can yes and Randy, because what the guilt part of it is super important, because it also allows him like to have this change of heart. Like he does the face turn, because ultimately he's like, yeah, let's just kill people. I don't care
Mhm.
about anybody. Let's just burn the world. You know, he literally is
Yeah.
the guy who can burn the world if he wants it, like literal, figurative. But at the end, again, it's one of my favorite moments is when he puts his hand on the bride's back. I've mentioned it before.
Yep.
It just is like,
Mm.
it's such a big turning point. And the part with the kid too, where it's just like one of the most tense parts, because he is maniacal and he says, "I'm not smiling." You're like, oh shit, he is a killer. He's a monster. And we realize there is a shred of humanity left within him.
Mhm.
He just misses being a dad. And
Yep.
ultimately, I think that's what overrides everything. Like, he is still going to literally kill people in the most vicious way possible.
Oh yes.
But I think
Yes.
he's more of a team player now. He's more
Mhm.
for the side of, as our buddy Tyler McCarthy would say, for the side of the angels type. And I think that's
Mhm.
important, because everyone goes through this, and he's the antithesis of Frankenstein. It's like he's given this teachable moment. Oh, which I hate that word. Sorry, teacher. Is this teachable moment, and he gets the right lesson out of it. Like, you know, this kid saved his life, much like
Mhm.
an old lady said Frankenstein. And Frankenstein's like, yeah, I'm just gonna kill her. Where
Yeah.
he could have killed the kid because he needed, like, from his practical standpoint, he could have, but he realized no, he'd rather get caught, honestly, than hurt this
Mhm.
kid.
Yep. Because I mean, when he sees the little girl, the first thing that happens is he gets the flashback to his own little girl.
Yeah. And who
And then when
wouldn't,
they come
right?
back, he's like, they're playing, and he's tossing her up, and they're having this good old time. And I'm like, and yeah, Dr. Phosphorus. I will say there is another spinoff of Dr. Phosphorus that don't belong to DC, belongs to another franchise that I wrote about for Bill. And then
The
my heart got
WWE?
broke. No, I'm talking about from Ghost Machine.
Oh yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
our never to be launched best comic books of the year.
So
Don't worry.
I'm gonna re-roll it. I'm gonna put the review up on the DFPN.com for everybody to read because I thought it was a phenomenal write-up.
It was a true shame that no one wanted to do that piece besides
So
you.
let's jump over to Nina's story now. And this one was another one of those where it's a parent who just wants the best for their kid and gives it to them, but it isn't quite what he thought it was going to be. And also, this is the finale episode with episode 7. And this one was oh boy. You all right over there, Bill?
Yeah, that was just the rat that was in my eye. Went to my lungs. Spoiler, and just a hint in him, just a little foreshadowing for our next segment.
But let's jump into this one. So during this whole finale, we're kind of getting Nina's story, and they saved it for last for a reason. And she really was the character at the end of the day that showed all of them that there was humanity in them. And, but in the end, it didn't save her because the princess was I should say, a maniacal human being herself who ended up really actually being a monster. And the monster seen through it. We'll start with, let's go with Randy. Randy, what did you think of Nina's story and ultimately like her demise in this episode?
Yeah, I was not at all surprised they saved it for the end, because along the way you're trying to figure out who is actually a criminal, and by my personal assessment, the only one who seems to be like officially a criminal is Dr. Phosphorus. Presumably the bride's done some shit because she's not afraid.
Yeah, she's got a laundry list.
Randy, every time, like when you mentioned that just now, I just got him dancing in that Party City pimp suit.
Yeah,
that's the spinoff I want. By the way, is just Dr. Phosphorus, Crime Lord. I would watch a whole series of just that little moment.
Just his misguided.
That is James Gunn's like ultimate power trip. He's like, I'm gonna make this spinoff. They're like, well, no one really wants it but Randy, and it's just like, I'm gonna make it for Randy.
Right, and you end the series, we get to see how Batman took him down exactly.
Yeah. We were talking about Batman. Really was he was really bulking season for Batman.
But
it was.
He was like,
it's like a real yoked Batman.
Yeah.
But with Nina, like the tragedy is like no matter how much her dad loves her, no matter how much he stands up for her, when her mother is clearly struggling with the trauma that came with this incredibly difficult birth, and we don't like where she lands, but we can understand the story and how she got there. And at the end of the day, like it's too much for her to bear. Like she sees herself as a monster. She gets captured. If this story had followed the trajectory of some of the others, maybe she was going to have an outburst and kill some people after her father gets shot.
That's what I thought was going to happen when her father got killed in front of her. I thought that was going to be her break-in moment, and how she ended up being captured ultimately. But she just willingly just went after the death of her father, because that's really what kind of set her, with I'm having a hard time with words today. Good thing I brought Randy on.
Yeah. But she's not, at the end of the day, she's not a killer. And that's what's so tough. And that's why Amanda Waller is such a great villain, because, she's the performance is amazing, but she's an evil genius, because Nina's skill is she is going to soften everyone else and give them someone else really to protect. She only lost that battle because she wasn't really prepared to kill someone. That wasn't really in her nature. She never wanted to do it, and it's it makes me feel great about the humanity of Nina, but it makes the whole thing even scarier because we don't see those skills.
Well, we didn't see the
She-
princess being
yeah.
a complete badass like that either.
And
We'll hop over to Amanda.
So Nina's story again was really well done. It was another heart-wrenching story because it just, you know, all of her story in a sense just came about because other people pushed her. Like she really had no say in what happened to her. I mean, obviously her parents, she was too little to make the choices that her parents made. She was too little to affect her mother leaving. She was, you know, kind of, and even kind of just being pushed out in school. Like these were all a lot of what happened to her was the most impacted by other people.
Mhm.
And that's hard to watch because you really were rooting for her and we were wanting her to turn it around because she really was just a victim of other people's
Bad
bad
decisions.
decision making. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, you know, and again, you know, I think her parents were well intended and trying, especially her dad trying to save her life. And that's absolutely commendable. I mean, who wouldn't do those things? Who
I mean,
wouldn't
at
go
the
to
end
those
of the
types of things for their
day,
children?
he did save her life.
He did. And I think she just fell into a pattern of other people heavily influencing her decisions. Again, not putting up much of a fight. Again, when you're grief stricken, though, that's a reaction you can have. It's realistic. But, you know, she was led on by, you know, the bride. Like everybody else in Creature Commandos kind of ran her over a little bit politely. But,
They
you
were
know,
never mean to her or
they were
rude
never
to her or
mean,
anything.
but she was a follower. She was not a leader. And, you know, and then to expect this big moment from her to go kill the princess was, to Randy's point, a big ask. And you were hoping that she would channel some of that energy. You wanted to see her to stand up for herself and to do something to like, and that's what I was waiting for. I was like, okay, we've had this build. And it goes back to the first episode where I think where Amanda Waller was like, she's the one you need to influence. And that's a great point, Randy, that you made. I didn't think about that in terms of her role in facilitating, kind of giving everybody someone to protect. But I was hoping, I think, for a bigger payoff. And so for her story to end, and that's what I'm hoping for in season 2, that there's more to her story. Like you really just want to see her come into her moment and to be so close to it and then it not happen. That one I was like, oh, like she was probably the one that for the pretty much the whole time I was like, come on Nina, come on Nina. Like, you know, well, or just even to stand up for herself. And at times she showed glimpses of that in how she interacted with the bride. But I just wanted her to be able to make her own decisions and choose
she
her
was
own
the
path.
bride's good conscience at many points.
She was, and that, but seeing more of that and seeing more of her influence her own life is what I really, really wanted to see. And I'm hoping we still get some of that.
Bill, over to you.
Yeah, her story is like, James Gunn, you emotionally manipulative bastard. Like, he did it again. Like, he finds a way. Like, we had Yondu in Guardians 2.
Hey, that one still hurts.
Don't get me started about that. And I mean, we had there's so many things that happen in the Suicide Squad. Like you know, Rick Flag. You have other people. Just he'll take someone off the board. But I don't think Nina's off the board. We didn't see them. You know, she wasn't buried or anything like that. It's Creature Commandos, guys. It's like she'll come back, and I think that's where she's going to have that badass moment, Amanda. I think that's season 2 where I see her. And what I ultimately hope she does is she kills Aquaman. Because what's he doing? Oh, he's not going to kill Aquaman, but there's going to definitely be Aquaman jokes written into it because there should be.
Especially now that he's Lobo.
Yeah, and you know they're gonna cast me as Aquaman. It's just like old Aquaman. Look at him. He's got a bad neck, and his gills are rotting out of his neck.
The Aquaman that I grew up with in the comic book was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white dude, not this you know, big old Jason Momoa fella.
I have no complaints. Excuse me. I have no complaints about how Aquaman got that glow up. It's fine.
Yeah, let him shake that water out of his hair, man. It's all good.
Thank you, Randy.
We saw that coming, right?
But I think that Nina is just like, ultimately her story was, you have to be one of us. You have to be one of us. Where everyone, and the story was, no, everyone needed to be one of her. And I think that's what's going to work. And I wonder, could that lead to her in a heel turn in season 2? That she taps
Season
into
2 has been greenlit.
some sort of
so-
dark side or a revenge. You guys convinced me to go against my morals. Now you've unwoken the beast that's finally inside of me, and I'm going to be this evil mastermind who's going to come back and
While she's recovering in the hospital bed, she's like, you know what?
hospital
All right.
tank. She's in a tank.
Yeah.
She's in a hospital
I mean,
frame.
I'd rather see them team up against the dehumanizing government agency, but that's my whole thing.
No, I
Can I
agree.
shout out?
Yeah, I would like
One
that.
last. The one thing I have to shout out about Nina before we move on from her is my favorite thing to do in life is like just play a board game. If I can ever convince the people in my life to sit back and play a board game, like life is good. That's my ultimate goal. And when they are holed up in the brothel,
if I lived up by you, Randy, I would come play board games with you.
we're gonna make this happen someday because they're
Are you
holed
a
up in the
Jersey Eyes
brothel
too?
fighting for their lives, and she's like, "I see a gaming opportunity. Let me grab categories." So I will always love her.
Are you
for
in
doing
Jersey
that.
too, Randy?
Randy's he's a Bostonian.
Oh, you're a
Yeah,
Bostonian.
Well, not really.
Massachusetts anyway. But
Okay.
Listen, it's
Basically
South
the same
Coast,
thing.
the armpit of Massachusetts.
It's all Boston.
listen. I'm in the armpit of America.
As long as they
so-
keep Sam Adams flowing, we're all good.
Yeah, a fun visit to the Sam Adams Brewery for sure.
So before we leave Creature Commandos, how did y'all feel about the ending and the bride seeing through the princess's bullshit and just ending it? We'll start with Randy since he just seen it. How'd you take that final shot?
So the way I kicked
Literally.
off my chat, the way I kicked off my chat with my buddy Chris Ingersoll, who loved this show, was I love the ending. Because I was like, wait, how are they going to land the plane? We're out of runway. Is all they're going to do is just like set up season 2? And I was feeling annoyed for a second. This was a perfect ending for me because it wasn't too messy. They tied up some loose ends, but left some open questions. I love it because there's some ambiguity here. There's no part of me that thinks the princess is innocent, but I don't think we saw anything to like 100% prove that Cersei's vision is going to come true. Like this princess is sinister. We saw those eyes go evil under the water. We saw that bloodlust for the kill. And I think the bride did assess the situation properly, but we don't really know the exact machinations, right? Like I love the film Minority Report, right? This whole question, can you try someone for the crime before they're guilty?
Yeah.
The bride does it based on some pretty good evidence. But what a great way to tie that up. Like she just makes that call on her own. Who cares what Amanda Waller has to say? I'm going to follow through on my mission my own way. And that's why this was the bride's show for me. And I personally loved the ending. I felt closure and a sense of excitement for two.
Amanda, over to you.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good it closed the loop on a few things, but yet you got the definitive backstories for everybody. You got kind of a sense of where they were going to go. So it closed the chapter on that current version of the Creature Commandos that we got. And of course, it left the door open for the new version as well.
So there's
that we're
a
getting.
lot of Creature Commandos that we
Yeah.
have not seen and that they can introduce from the comic book.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what they're going to do with.
So it feels very fresh for them to go that approach. But I also, the bride's a badass. I loved her. She's my favorite character. So I'm just here. It was circumstantial evidence. I was like, whew, it's a risky move there. But it was effective. The princess had it coming. You stab Nina, I don't like you either. So
I was never gonna trust her. Like the way she threw herself at Rick. Like she was like the female in a Hemingway novel.
It's the hair. It's the hair.
He did have.
I knew she had some
hair.
ulterior motive. He's a handsome guy, but there was something more going on there for sure.
It's because he's a Dilfy piece of shit.
Piece of shit. No, Richard Flagg.
Oh, that hurts.
I call him Rick because he's my friend.
Leo?
On to you.
So some issues with the ending here. I brought up the Clayface part of it. It like the Cersei prophecy thing is so muddy. It's just like, okay, so Princess Cosmo, because Marina Bakalova voiced Cosmo in Guardians, and I forgot her name within the show, so she's Princess Cosmo now. She employs Clayface to go and infiltrate and be kill the professor and take over. I don't know how that fits. It just doesn't. The puzzle pieces don't fit for me on that. It's cool, but also like, But I do love how the bride pulled and Randy on our socially distance episode. I did reference. It was a very Benoit Blanc type of Ayana. And I loved I love that. I love the new team, which is great. King Shark comes back. So good.
I will take him in any kind of media I can get.
Yeah, and I just think that the motivations and the vision, I'm just like, it just didn't land the plane for me on that. But the ending where she just caps the princess, because I think the princess was 100% guilty. Circumstantial evidence be damned, Your Honor. I've seen enough Law and Order.
I mean, she was totally guilty. She was totally guilty, but
that kill was for Mina, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was like, you're getting this bullet for Mina. And it was just the perfect, like, dead center. Like, that's satisfying as fuck. I don't care. So we're going to jump over to Skeleton Crew, but we are greenlit already for Creature Commandos Season 2. And I love the fact that James Gunn is just like, I'm DC. This is my show. We're getting Season 2, guys. And I'm not mad.
Cheers to the Tin Man.
Oh yeah, that was
Speaking of someone on the juice, holy shit!
Whew,
yeah, robot man.
Oof. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
What a glow up!
He did have a glow up in episode 7. Well, that dude got yoked fast.
Oh my God.
Speaking of robots, let's go talk about our new favorite robot in SM33, Shmi, and close up Creature Commandos for everybody. I know we left off at episode 4 last time. I think we were at the halfway point the last time we talked about it. So we'll jump right into it at episode 5. And so just for everybody who doesn't know, this takes place during the same time frame as The Mandalorian. And we're talking about a planet that has been potentially hidden away since the Old Republic era. So this planet has been hidden for a very long time, and the planet just operates. It continues what it was put there to do, and that is to create Republic credits. It is a complete treasure planet, which is, what they've come out now and have said, like, oh yeah, we kind of based this entire thing off treasure planet type of spin to it. So let's jump into it.
Did you make a reference to long forgotten Disney classic Treasure Planet?
I did.
Nice.
Because that's what they literally said. Like, hey, yeah, we literally took Treasure Planet, fucking threw it into Star Wars, and hey, this is what we got. And I'm not mad. I really enjoyed this show. We'll start with Randy. What did you think about the cast of this show?
So I was really excited for Skeleton Crew, like conceptually, like can we come in and do this Goonies-esque show? But I was a little bit worried because it's tough to cast kid actors. And I had the great pleasure of chatting with Bill and Amanda about the 2-part premiere back in December, and really enjoyed it. And Bill's like, I've done so many pods since then. I can see it on your face.
I know.
No, but And
I also
really
was
loved
looking at
the-
Amanda's 12-gallon jug of water over there. I'm like, holy
You know
shit.
what?
But,
I have to work on staying hydrated, sir. It's Texas.
But,
It is
but like,
Texas.
listen, I really loved the kids in the premiere, and like they continue to be a strong suit all the way through to the end.
Mhm.
Like, I really enjoyed this series. I hope they find a way to bring us these characters again. But like, honestly, my biggest critique is like they needed to write the parents out of it more to let these kids
Yeah.
stay front and center for me. That was like my biggest note. And the kids are incredible. And Jude Law was just on another level, because this is my
Dude, was he
absolute
not?
favorite type of
Yes.
character. Even when he was saying horrible things to the children, and like you hate him, you love to hate him.
Yes.
We've seen him previously have this really meaningful heart to heart with Wim, and then to see this
Yeah.
like broken child there, and Jod is just like, you're the most annoying one, and it's so painful. And I'm like, why do I still like him? Because
yeah,
Because it's
because
Jude
then we're-
Law.
but then I know I'm going out of order here a little bit, but when we get to the finale, like
No, that's
he's
fine.
genuinely concerned for KB when that ship is going down. He is not happy
Yep.
that she might get killed. So there's something redeemable there. And I know we're going to dig into him later, so I don't want to go too early on that. But yeah, Jude Law was incredible, and these kids really blew me away.
Amanda.
I mean, Randy, I get why you dug Jude Law. I mean, he's a Delphi piece of shit. I mean,
Oh.
Jude Law though, charismatic as hell in this part. Like, just like, but that's the thing about Jude Law. Like, I think there was a period of time growing up where Jude Law was everywhere.
Yeah.
He was in everything for a
Mhm.
period of time, and then kind of like low key went under the radar, and then he's back.
Yeah.
And he's one of those actors that you sometimes take for granted, that you don't remember how good he is until he puts on a performance like this, where he takes you through everything. And this just reminded me how great Jude Law really, and how underrated he is as an actor, because he really did, like, you, to your point, Randy, you loved him. He was charismatic. You saw him broken, and then you see him and you're like, wow, you are savage to these kids. Like, what, dude? Like, but then you like him
Scale it
again.
back, bro. Come on.
Yeah, I was like, you were not holding back. Wow, you just let them have it. The kids were great. I loved KB. I thought she had, and I know we'll talk about them more, but each of the kids had a different arc and their own ways of growing and own paces of growing. For me, there was definitely a difference in who had the most growth, and of course, whose backstory struggle, or whose growth struggled a little bit. But I mean, the kid actors were all great in their parts. Neil is the goodest boy. If anybody hurts Neil, you will answer to me and everybody here on this podcast. Yeah.
And his girlfriend.
Exactly.
She can kick your ass.
Exactly. I'm here for it. I thought the kids were all well cast. And yeah, the adults, I'm with you, Randy, on that. I have loads to say. Although they did have the dad had some redeemable moments. I just
later on. Yeah.
But I think a little compared to the mom. Compared to the mom.
Harsh there, brother.
Compared to the mom, he was. Yeah. But I mean, this was really about the kids, and as it should have been, and Jude Law, because Jude Law.
You greet the kids on the beach at the end after they've resolved the adventure on their own. That's how the formula works.
Oh, I got you. That's true.
It's true. Bill.
Yeah, I don't generally like kid actors. They're mostly, I feel like, Jude Law, and I'm like, you're annoying. You're so annoying. But that wasn't the case here. And Sophie, my daughter, she was a huge fan of KB. She loves a gal who's technical, gets the job done. Fern, I felt at times was a little too one note. But I feel like there was an episode where everything changed for this series, and that was episode 5 when Jude Law has that really heartfelt speech with Wim. and then they all change for the better. They all evolve. The scene, Amanda, we talked about this. The scene with KB and Wim,
Yes.
when she's
Oh,
basically dying, and he has to, and it's so suspenseful, and like a little. I mean, even for for a 43-year-old, it was a little scary because like this kid could die.
well, and
Yeah,
I was
that's what I
like,
was
and it's
thinking
Wim.
the entire time. I'm like,
Well, my
it's
thought,
Wim.
it's
little
Wim.
girl
That
go?
was my like.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
like,
like,
I was
you're
like,
calling
oh,
him.
no.
Yeah, you're
This
like,
is the
oh,
kid
sweet
that
baby.
pushed the
I'm like,
button. Like, this is
you're
the
like,
kid that
baby
pushed the
boy,
button.
what are you doing?
Yeah, I was like,
yeah.
this is the one that pushed the button. This is the one that doesn't listen to do it.
No.
I was like, oh gosh.
He's
But this
got
is the
floppy
Bryce.
hair.
This is the Bryce Dallas Howard episode, wasn't it?
Well,
Yeah, I think
listen,
so.
let's talk about that for a second. Why they
Well,
haven't given her
didn't
her
she
own
do
movie
the
yet.
crab one with the giant crab
That's-
puppet?
This
is
is
the
the crab
one.
one.
With
Yes,
the
this
crab
is
one.
the crab one.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is episode 5 when they're on
So-
the treasure where they find the treasure.
the spa.
the spot.
and then-
They ruined it.
It's a
I
doodle.
know, it looks so nice. I would have enjoyed that. But I thought the cast was great. Jude Law is. I was telling Amanda up until the final moment. I was like, I was just hoping for this whole like wink. I was just being mean to you because I needed to keep my cover because I'm really the hero because you liked him that much and he was that convincing. And that's what's great about that character because it's such a gray area character. He's based on Long John Silver. Long John Silver was not the good guy. He was not a protagonist. He was not redeemable at all. But here they made him redeemable. And Amanda's right. Like we forget Jude Law, how great he is. Go watch a great underrated film that most people didn't see, Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks and one of Paul Newman's last roles.
Yep.
Jude Law, before he was a star, Daniel Craig. Jude Law plays this like gross looking assassin. Fantastic in it. But he's done so much great stuff. He was fantastic. And I have to put over Nick Frost as SM33. That's my dude. I love Nick Frost. I've been a fan of his forever. And he was the perfect, surly, cranky Bill Bodkin of a robot, if there ever was one. and and I actually didn't mind the parents. TV on the Radio's lead singer I thought he had some really good moments where you saw like, oh, Wim is his father's son. And that was cool to see, although he kind of beefed it in the end. Fern's mom, they did.
He
not
tried.
Her
He did not.
They did her dirty with the writing because she's a good actress, Carrie Condon.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, it's a really good cast, some good cameos in there, and I really like what they did here. Although apparently it was viewed for 1 billion minutes, so I mean it can't be.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of shows you'd be surprised.
Like so many people, like I seen that brought up today on a meme where they were talking about the number of people who viewed it. I'm like 1 billion. Like that's a lot of people who watch this show.
No, it's 1 billion minutes, not 1 billion people. So that's
1 billion minutes. Still, that's still a hefty change of people who.
And I think the show has legs too because I'm hearing more people, like just even my own social media. Amanda, I don't know about you or Randy. More people are catching it now.
Yes.
And I think that's like we have to reevaluate streaming. And I think companies still haven't done this yet with the stickiness of stuff of just like a lot of people wait till it's over, then they watch it.
Yeah.
Or they wait for Socially Distanced or this podcast to come out and they're like, oh shit. Smart people. And that Dilfy son of a bitch, Bill, said, fucking watch the show.
Yeah, you got to show some faith in a project. And all the stuff they did with practical effects on this show, like the big set piece is that stop motion crab situation that looks
hours upon
amazing.
hours upon days to just do like small portions to move a leg. I seen the behind the scenes on that. Yeah, just at the end of the day.
Yeah,
but
we don't just want washed out CGI all the time.
Yeah, no, that was one of those the practical.
You want real
crap.
stuff, like the completely real Tac Renaud's lair behind me.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I thought actually was real.
There's a sucker born every day. But so let's we don't have to talk about each and every single episode. Let's just answer some questions that I stole from Amanda.
Human Star Wars Encyclopedia, Amanda Rivas, for a reason.
They were good questions. So I was
Yeah.
just like, hey, Amanda, I'm going to borrow some stuff from you. And we'll throw some more stuff in as we go. So I know this question. So I like this one. Yeah. Who do you think John Narwood really is? And at the end of the day, how did you feel about him being the villain? And what did you think about Jude Law's performance as this? I know we've already touched on it, so it's a perfect time to kind of just dive into that one. And Crimson Jack is not a wrong answer.
No, I loved it though.
I didn't. Yeah, me too. I love that reference. I'll never get tired of that reference.
I popped.
I think he is someone we are. This is not a real answer, but he is someone we have not seen the last of. I feel like he is a character that we're going to see in 2026 on the big screen in Grogu and the Mandalorian. You don't just do a one-off with Jude Law, especially if this takes place in the Mandoverse, which I don't know if this is a question or not. I'm glad we didn't get any Mando cameos or characters.
Well, we
But,
got the one. We got the one.
We did, and that was fine.
Yes.
Which was, if people don't know, it's one of the pirates. It's the pirate who first discovers
with
the money.
Little spikes on his head.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, you're not missing anything. But if you do know that, obviously I didn't, or at least I forgot, like I always do. It's even sweeter. So I mean, there's a tie there into this, and that's what I want to see. Like, I'm sorry, Amanda, how do you feel about Jude Law and Pedro getting on screen together? I mean, I think that'd be pretty crazy. And
somebody will have to do a wellness check. Somebody's got to check on me.
Brandon's just going to fill a popcorn bucket full of water and just dump it on you. And
I'll shoot him a message like, "Hey, Brandon, check on Amanda."
But
he'll have loads to say next time you bring him on a Star Wars.
He will. I had to save her life more than once during this TV series.
But it's I think it's like we're gonna see this character again. It's too good to pass up. It's too charming and has a lot of Randy, I'm gonna just borrow your phrase, a lot of runway left where this could be an antagonist or it could be an ally, or given what we know of this Filoni-verse, a little bit of both.
Yeah. We'll go over to you, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to go out and say I don't even know if I would call him the villain of Skeleton Crew. I'm being a little bit playful with my language here.
You're saying it's the parents. You're saying it's the parents.
I mean, yes. Okay, listen. When you're in a movie like this and you've been a total piece of shit the entire time, and the villain has a lightsaber to your throat, and your son can save the galaxy, you have to be like selfless. You're like, no, do it, Whim. But no, he's like, Whim, let him have what he wants so I can survive. And I was like, dude, come on. You had one job. No, but no, I think it's just the galaxy in general, right? I know we got a lot of lies from Jod, but I am inclined to believe we got more or less the real story from him at the end, where like he was taken in by a Jedi, partially trained, and thrown away, basically. Like the Jedi are a pretty screwed up organization, like taking children from their families.
He wasn't thrown away.
Yeah,
she found him after Order 66. She herself was a Padawan. She still had her braid, so she wasn't even a full up Jedi Knight yet. So
so I won't push back on that, but what I would say here is this Jedi way is so coded in like these controlling, limiting methods. So I'm forgetting his word for word speech about the falling out here, if they drifted away naturally or if there was any sort of disagreement. Killed by Inquisitors. Okay, so like So he's left like partially trained or whatever. But the reason I'm excited by that, and I would love to see him again, is what I want from Star Wars is I want the gray area. I want those gray Jedi, and every time they veer toward it, they chicken out. They chicken out at the last second, and I want them to just lean into it. Like we got pretty close with the Acolyte, but then they went and canceled it, so we don't get to continue to fully explore the most promising characters from that series. I mean, maybe we will. Those arms might be back for us someday, Amanda. I hope. But like Jod could be a guy where he is a selfish
Wait,
piece of
what's Dark
garbage.
Forces canon? There's no such thing as a gray Jedi. Zilch.
I mean, you're looking
Zero.
at him.
Unless it's Bill, and then we're talking about his hair and my beard.
But no, but I mean, I would just love to see him continue to be someone who is self-serving, but he's sometimes more complicated. He may have a redemption arc, but I'm not in a rush for it.
Yeah.
My favorite Gray Jedi is from video game lore, which is no longer canon, but I love to talk about my guy Jolie Bindo from Knights of the Republic, who is an overall well-meaning guy, but he's someone who left the Jedi Order. He's someone who worked as a smuggler. And I want to lean into that. Like there's a way to access the Force that's not Jedi coded. And I'm still waiting for them to get there, and Jod's a possibility for it. So that's my excitement for him.
It's acceptable.
I like it.
I want Randy to write the next Star Wars movie.
Please.
As long as he doesn't use the term gray Jedi.
Oh, I want him to Gray Jedi all over the place. Just
No.
It's going to be a lot of people talking in rooms.
As long as you write.
It's going to be very stage play Star Wars.
Yes. I'm like,
as long as one of those Jedi is Chris Ingersoll, then
please. As long as one of those, I'm here for that. And then if you can just write a part for Manny Jacinto to just show up with his arms again,
just to be
that
like,
would be great.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, listen, I think they established him as ageless enough that if they want to bring him back, I think they can.
1,000+ years.
There you go.
Listen,
There you go.
Yoda was like 7,000 years old, right? Come on.
900.
900.
That one wasn't. Wasn't that one only like 100 or so years?
And it was
before
Luke's
the
incessive
marriage?
questioning that didn't let him live.
Sorry,
to
I realized
1,000.
this was not meant to be an acolyte podcast. I apologize.
No, you're fine, man.
No, there's always room.
It's timely. It was one of the most watched things on Disney Plus in 2024. So,
despite the haters,
and there's always room for the acolyte. Here.
we know.
is there only
Manny
know,
Jacinto's
man,
arms.
God.
I'm here for the lightsaber battles too. Come on now, those were great.
I mean,
Hell
we
yeah.
did get to see a crystal get bled, so
Yeah, we did. We got that, and we had,
we
again,
almost had
just
Keanu Reeves as a Jedi. So,
it's never too late.
Mhm.
Well, as a Jedi, I prefer Sith. Bring me Darth Revan, please.
of course, you prefer Sith. Do you like your Jedi like you're like your kings, short and emo?
Short.
This is true.
Wait, did you say we got Keanu Reeves as a Jedi?
He
There
was
was-
supposed to be the
Darth
lead
Revan.
of
Darth
no.
No,
he
they're
was
talking about
suppo-
that too.
yeah.
Oh well, he was supposed to be. Christ, I can't remember his name. He was supposed to be the head guy in the Acolyte.
Oh,
Oh,
The
I
guy
didn't
from
know that.
Squid
Squid
Game.
Games.
Squid Game. He was. It was originally supposed to be Keanu Reeves.
Yes, that's right.
But he had to pull out due to other commit, or he couldn't commit fully, so they brought in the actor from Squid Game.
Bill, I've got such
Who was
good news
excellent.
for you.
But
You can catch Keanu as an anthropomorphic animated office building in an
know.
episode of Severance.
wait,
so
he's a
there you
building.
go. He's an animated building that talks. Yeah.
Is he the building that they work in? Because that's 10 minutes from my house. So
Yep. He's just a corporate video cartoon voice. He's basically Mr. DNA from Jurassic Park, but
Nice.
an animation of the
Nice.
building.
So Bill's gonna go walk by that building now.
They couldn't match headroom him and
I
just
can
give him
drive
a
there.
space on there. That's walking distance from Bill's front door.
hey, I'm a building. What's up?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes,
like
Johnny
that.
Mnemonic. Nice.
Yeah, that's a
Mnemonic,
good
a
reference,
DVD that my dad got me as a joke Christmas present one year, and I tried to trade it in to Suncoast Video. They would never take it. They said, we cannot even give you $1 for this. This movie is worth $0.25, and we do not trade in for movies less than $1. I was like, fuck. I just threw it out after a while.
What do you think the percentage of former employees of that particular store now run a podcast?
99%. Because there was that one dude who just didn't give a shit.
And it's all still from their mom's basement.
Oh.
All right, guys.
The force is strong with this one, man.
Cannot.
We've explored Jod. and Jude Law and his
God,
his
whoa.
dilfiness. Let's jump over to the kids now. And which of these kids, in y'all's opinion, got the best arc and best redemption out of all of them? Like, who had the most growth? See, I'm
KB.
restructuring her questions.
KB.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
second that.
easily. Randy, are you going to be the odd man out and go with somebody different?
I'll be odd man out. Listen, I love KB. She's awesome, but she was so self-assured. She does have to stand up to Fern finally. But in terms of like an arc, I'm gonna actually go and give it to Wim because
Yeah,
you know
that's what I went with the
he-
first time too.
yeah, like he's going from this kid who's playing with his toys. He's got these really simple versions of Jedi and Sith in his mind, and that's certainly complicated through his voyage. But he is able to, in that moment with KB, he's able to find some focus and patience within himself. He's able to lean into his skills and come up and tell that distracting story. And as much as I've complained about his dad, he definitely does the most work to like push his dad in the right direction, to instruct him on something, to bring him somewhere. And I also just thought he was so fun overall. I realize that's a little bit different than an arc, but one of my favorite things about that performance in particular is the lines of dialogue they wrote for him that just sounded like a kid. Like just little grammatical errors, like referring to Jedis with the S at the end. Like I didn't write it down, but I think when they're trying to escape from that machine at the end of episode 6, he's like, it's chomped down too hard. Like it's just always some phraseology that a kid would really come up with. I love that about him. And we go from, activating the lightsaber backwards to being able to stand up to a legit pirate, and he really helped everyone grow, including Neil, my guy Neil. So there you go.
Yeah, well said, Randy. Well said on
That's good.
Wim. I mean, I was always a little bit partial to Wim because he reminds me of so much of my own kiddo.
Yeah.
At times he did, and still
Little
does.
mischievous.
Yeah,
What's this
definitely.
button do?
When my little Revis would have pushed the button, 1,010%, 1,010%. Would he
And
have
like I
stabbed
said,
himself with the lightsaber? Like nearly stabbed
probably.
himself holding it upside down? Absolutely.
Hey, it's okay though. You can live from that now. Only
Yeah.
Qui-Gon dies from them.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. But well said. Well said on Wim. But what did you think, Jeff?
You know what? I went with Will last time. This time, I'm gonna go with my guy Neil.
Nice.
Neil.
Not because he's an easy answer, but because seeing him up there on that big old cannon blasting at pirates was not the thing I was expecting to really see from Neil. So seeing his growth from the scared child to this, oh, let me climb up the ladder and get on this blaster cannon and start blasting pirates, that was kind of like, my dude, that's what's up.
And he got the girls.
He did. It's the trunk. They say it's not the size of the trunk, but Neil proved different.
I mean, I think it was more his overalls that really
Could have
sold
been
him.
those last Kosh Bagosh overalls he was rocking.
And that like comb over.
That was a
I
sweet
heard
comb over.
I heard it works.
I think it was that just like really attractive moral strength of character and emotional
You know what?
intelligence that the ladies
You know
go
what?
for.
Girls don't dig that no more. What are you talking
Uh,
about, Randy?
I don't
We
know.
do.
Man. I don't
Emotional
know, man.
intelligence, yes, we do.
I don't know. This new generation, man, they go for emotional intelligence and moral centers. I'll tell you that.
But really, no, like she's never seen kindness before. That's pretty much how she phrases it, and she likes what she sees.
Yeah. Emotional IQ, high emotional IQ. Go Neil. Go Neil. Although I would say he took the most bumps, like the most
He
risks.
did.
His bump
Two?
guard
He
is
did.
punch, dude.
I was like,
He
Dude,
did.
he definitely has a couple cracked ribs at that final
Dude,
one before the
Shmi
cannon.
almost got him. Shmi almost
Mm.
got him. When he went nuts at the was it
The
episode
temple.
5? The temple, yeah.
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 I will say, out of all the parents, Neil's parents were also my favorite.
Yes.
So
His
They
dad
acted
was
like
a big old
parents.
fella. Yeah, his dad was a big old fella.
yeah, you don't mess with him.
Yeah, that's why they didn't put him in, because like, oh man, he's got some weight behind him. He definitely
Yeah.
he can definitely knock somebody out. Like he's got that dad beer strength. You're like, nah, we can't.
Yeah,
have that.
show would have been over
Yeah.
at that point.
That's
Way
just
before.
intimidation. You're just like, yeah,
Pirates. What pirates?
Glasses Jones. We can
It
deal
would have
with
been one of
that.
those like where he takes his son and sits it behind him. Like, what'd you say about my son?
Exactly.
Okay.
He
What
can fit his whole.
pirates?
He can
Completely
fit his
unfair.
whole family behind him. He was that big, but yeah, that's why that was smart.
So let's jump over to the supervisor. What did y'all guys think about the supervisor? And like, were y'all really shocked that it was a droid? I was shocked. I was like, I wasn't expecting the supervisor to be a droid. We'll go with let's go with
Go
Randy,
Bill.
shaking his head like he's like, yeah, pick me, pick me.
Uh,
He's a kid in
okay,
class
so
like,
I will
"Oh,
say
oh."
I usually don't call anything, but I was never more sure of anything that this was going to be a robot. And the reason
Yeah.
why, I mean, it was partly like all the robots controlling everything else and everything being so regimented. And as we learned that this planet seemed to be cut off from everything. But more than that, despite all the talk of like the Goonies and 80s movies, when I started watching this, I felt like I was playing Fallout.
Mm.
Because like as soon as we were
Yeah.
introduced to Atten, I was like, this feels like a vault from Fallout, and it's
Yeah.
always
Yep.
some kind of social experiment at the bottom of it.
Mhm.
Now, what did surprise me was that in constructing this whole system in this droid, they apparently put all the most essential components right in that little very vulnerable eye socket right there that one
The big red
lightsaber burst
light.
could deactivate. I thought that was a pretty big design flaw considering all the
Listen,
heft and weight to that machine. So
if we know anything about Star Wars, architecture is never their strong suit.
No.
True. Everything's always
Neither
at
are
one
the
point.
fail safes. Fail safes, non-existent.
although I was wondering if the parents were going to be more surprised, because I felt like Fern's mom did not seem surprised.
But
It was a
She
droid.
knew
She
she
had
was
been
the
up
number
there.
2. She got called up to the supervisor multiple times throughout the series.
But
So
yeah,
I think she did know.
yeah, but she still wanted Fern to show that proper decorum, like you might show to
Yeah.
a more traditional living being. But points
That's
to the
where
droid.
it kind of got me, because she's like, just, shoulders back, I'm like,
Mhm.
it's kind of weird, but I'm like, I still feel like it's going to be a droid.
Yeah.
And sure
People will
enough, it was
submit
him.
to almost anything when they want to feel safe, I guess.
I mean, they were safe. Like they.
I got what you were putting down there, Randy.
Yep.
But yeah, I wasn't surprised either, because every time they just kept saying, the robots kept saying, the supervisor will see you, and I'm just like, okay, this is
It's all
not.
sports, our son. Yes, they are.
Exhaust parts.
There's one flaw.
They it just they kept. I'm just like, this is not a real thing. This is going to be just. This is a hidden society. It is archaic in so many ways. This has to be not a human being running this.
Mhm.
This has to be a droid or a robot or a sentient being, which it sort of was. But yeah, I wasn't surprised by that. And I also was very happy that it was taken down so quickly, because it's like, that's how fragile this whole thing was. Like,
Yeah.
all you had to do
Ooh, I
was
like that.
was stab it in the flashlight and it was dead, and it's just like, our whole society's dead because the light bulb went out, you know what I mean? And it's like, I like that fact of just how fragile it was, because it just spoke to so much about like faith and like belief in governmental systems, and it speaks to a lot of larger things that you could someone who hosts like a media literacy podcast could really talk about, diving deep into like power structures and belief and all that sort of stuff, because like even though the mom knew, it is a goddamn like it's basically a Dalek without legs, you know what I mean, without a bottom. It's a Dalek head is the
and it rotates.
Yeah, and so it's like, she knew, and yet she was still like, yeah, I totally submit all of this.
It's completely subservient. Like, she was the number 2, and this is what got me. This is why I thought it may actually be a human at first, just because she's the number 2. Maybe it's kind of like a secession thing, and that's why these kids are tested. Because remember, we started the whole season with them being tested to see where they will be in society. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's like the next man up type of deal. And her mom's the number 2, so she's the next person up to be the supervisor.
I will say after the whole stick him with the pointy end thing worked, and stuck him in the flashlight and he shut down, a little part of me was like, oh, was I wrong about the droid? Like, is a Jeff Goldblum gonna pop out from behind that screen now?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And be like, hey, everybody, I'm a shitty dad. And you're like, oh man, did we walk
And I'm
into
here
the
like,
wrong
hi.
movie? And you're like, you're the
Jeff
shittiest.
Goldblum.
You're just like, you Delphi piece of shit. Come here.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, to Randy's point, that was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Like, I was like, this is too simple for the droid. Like, it makes sense. But then I'm like, who's behind the droid? And I still have that question of, where is the droid getting orders from?
Yeah, I mean, he knew about Order 66 as well. So he was learning. He knew stuff.
But so that's where I question that. And this is just my not so encyclopedic Star Wars brain comes in. Order 60. So this is during the Mandalorian time. Order 66 is history, right? So they would have programmed. It's just like, it feels like this is an old history textbook where it's just like, that I had in Catholic school. It was like, we stop at World War II, or we stop at the Vietnam War, and that's it. Like, I don't think it's Skynet, to the comment there, because I don't think it learned anything. I think it was just like, here's my knowledge base, which is my, it's like the encyclopedic knowledge it had up to this date.
It never stopped receiving updates.
It never talked about the Empire. It never talked about anything that happened. It was like Order 66. Okay, that's history. That's like someone saying, you talking to someone and they're saying like, well, I know what you program a robot and they're like, well, we know what the Vietnam War is. Great. That happened like a long ass time ago. That happened over 50 plus years ago. Great. That's history. It's not today.
It kind of reminded me of Wall-E.
That's killing me.
Yes.
What it was.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, there's a movie, and I'm like, Wall-E, and about the ship that's following that's following orders and not letting anybody go back home, and it's been doing it. I mean, that's exactly what the supervisor reminded me of. Of course, I always have the question of who set it up to begin with. I'm always going to wonder that question. I was like, is it High Republic time? Like, there's me just going off.
Well, I mean, we had the High Republic references.
Yes.
Like, even the
Great Work is a High Republic reference.
Yeah.
So but it's makes you wonder like how it kept running and why nobody questioned it and when people phased out of it. And so it left a lot of interesting questions. But
they did say that we haven't been seen by a diplomat in years, but they didn't reference that. Yeah, emissary. But they didn't say like how many years it had been. They just said it had been years. So
it's just interesting to see how people kept up, like to everyone's point here, how people kept up with the charade. Like, it's a droid.
Yeah, they went to work. They did their job. They made gold coins for the Republic, and that's all they knew. That's what they were put there for.
Yeah. And they were cut off. And the other thing, they were cut off from society. They're cut off from the stars. Like, that whole thing we're saying I've never seen stars before. Like, that's like the whole your head's in the clouds theory, where praise because they could look to the stars, I wonder what's out there. I want to go explore what's out there. You've cut them off from ever wanting to leave. These people have been held hostage for generations and enslaved essentially to run the system.
Yeah, look, I love the idea that I think it's just like a bureaucratic failing, right? Like you mentioned, like Wall-E, like everything's on autopilot. I talked about Lost earlier. One meaningless Lost mystery that I'll spoil for you is there's a pallet drop of food from the Dharma Initiative, and you eventually find out that it's just like no one ever turned off the automated shipments. They're like two guys in a warehouse somewhere still getting like an automated paycheck, and they don't even know that the company's gone. I think that's the kind of the vibe. So someone's getting them, or maybe someone like the Emperor or someone has that knowledge in their back pocket.
I don't think the Emperor even had knowledge of that money. If he would have known he had that money, you best believe he would have used it to make another Death Star.
Well, they do love making those.
With 1 point. 1 damn point.
One fatal flaw.
speaking of, we're getting into season 2 really soon, so that's something.
I'm excited.
Oh, I thought you said season 2 of this. I'm like, that's happening.
No.
But Andor, yes, season 2. It's gonna be great.
I'm here
But
for it.
speaking of series like this, how would you feel about getting more one-off series like this one, where it's kind of its own little standalone thing, where you don't need the tie-ins to other Star Wars lore? Randy, we'll go with you. We're picking on you. You're the new guy.
I'm going to say yes, provided that they can continue to create some creative space for the people attached to the project. So, all those practical effects that we were talking about earlier, like the clear heart that went into casting this series, they did some special things. Like my critiques are pretty minuscule in a show that I really enjoyed and really loved. But yeah, I think we kind of canceled it earlier. Like, I think this can exist as a one-off, but at the same time, like, give these shows some time to breathe. Give these shows some time to develop a
Let it
following.
marinate.
Yeah, not everyone's gonna catch the show right away. Like Game of Thrones took several years before it became what it became, and I feel like people forget that. So,
Bill.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a tale of two cities, right? The one city being our imaginations, being like, yes, obviously, like let's get creatives to come in and do their own thing. We have Tony Gilroy, like famed writer director who did Michael Clayton, who's done serious stuff, comes in and does a prequel series that's like, wartime drama, espionage, character study, spy thriller, all these things that don't fit into the magical fantasy of Star Wars, but also does, right? I would love to see, like, there's no reason there couldn't be an Ewok show. There's no reason there can't be more, like I said this morning, there can't be another animated series in the vein of Clone Wars or Rebels, like a prestige show, like we've seen with Marvel has done that with X-Men 97. They are doing 3 seasons of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Like I said, the Ewok show, that could be an animated series. There could be an animated series about this that's coming. I know
there was an animated series about the Ewoks.
Oh, exactly. My friend has a cell from that in his apartment. But I mean, there's no reason why you can't do that now and reintroduce these characters. But you have to make, I think I said this on Social Distance, you have to make Star Wars cool again. You have to make it more acceptable because it is so, the fan base is, not us, but like the fan base is so hyper-focused on everything has to tie together. Everything has to be lore. Everything has to be perfect that it's never perfect, right? And there's just so much angst and bullshit that happens here. And so the other city I was talking about is the corporate side of things. They're like, can we justify being this creative, or do we have to go for the hits? Disney did it this year. They made Pixar cool again. How do they do that or profitable again? Because, you also had like 4 years of like their big releases being released for free, but they did a sequel with Inside Out 2. Marvel was struggling. Deadpool and Wolverine. These are all things that existed, so you're tacking things on. Star Wars, I don't know what we have with that right now. It's like, okay, we bring Rey back. Well, gosh, we saw how much heat that got for no goddamn reason. Like, oh, let's bring Finn back. Yeah, okay. Like, you keep seeing these things bounce around. It's just like, I would love, because they want to capitalize on something, right? That isn't Skywalker adjacent, but they always go back to it. They had it with Mando, and I think like that just kind of like that 3rd season and Boba Fett really did it dirty. Maybe the movie rekindles that interest. Ahsoka was great, obviously, but something's got to change within the dynamic of Star Wars, because I think there's so many people that have generations of storytellers out there that can do great Star Wars stuff. Like Bryce Dallas Howard should have her own Star Wars.
Yes.
She should. She's
not
phenomenal.
episodes. I mean, unless she doesn't want to. Like, give her a movie or give her a whole show to run.
Yes.
Because she's pretty great. So, I mean, like, let's do that. And I think there's so much that can be done that that I just think we need to mine it for more and figure out what to do. Like, this Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron thing could be awesome.
Yeah.
Why not?
It's got potential.
It does.
Sure.
Bill, you know how I can't help but quote Kurt Vonnegut all the
I
time?
know you. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like
In one of his
beautiful.
in one of his rules for creative writing, he says you have to write to please just one person. If you open a window and try to make love to the world, you're going to get pneumonia. And I feel like they
I
won't
don't know.
make up
I've
their
tried it,
minds.
man. I've done pretty okay. I'm pretty good.
I think a Targaryen or two has tried that as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but
Um,
what
Yeah.
a never been a kid. A guy did a cake
No,
bounce
but,
house out of a
like,
castle window led to a whole
Mando's
thing.
Mando season 3 is such a good example because I am one of these
Yes.
Star Wars fans who's coming in like mostly with knowledge of the films. I've been
Mhm.
catching up slowly on like Clone Wars and stuff, but it's
Oh,
like they're
classic.
like, okay, we're gonna double and triple down on Mandalorian lore. Okay, but if you're gonna do that, do it because I love Katie Sackhoff, but like they made Bo-Katan a boring character, and then I'm listening to podcasts, and they're like, "Oh, she has a history as basically being a terrorist, and all this complicated thematic stuff," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's cool. Like, bring me into that. Like, let me see it." But they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do the lore, but let's not do the lore because some people might not know what it
Yeah.
is," and it's like, dude, pick a lane. Do the lore free Mando thing that was working, or like do the lore right. People will come
Yeah.
if you do it right.
Yeah.
There's some great
Now
stuff
you
in
you
there.
did see some of the Bo-Katan stuff in Rebels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But for those
that's
who
so
haven't
long
watched
ago.
it,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
true.
that and I mean, they could have served with the flashback like they did it for Ahsoka. You
Mhm.
had to that Clone Wars flashback. Why not do something like that with Bo-Katan?
Yeah.
They got
And
so. I mean, yeah. I mean, that was the thing. The problem with Star Wars, it was just like they always get cold feet because they never know when to commit to the bit.
Yeah.
Because it's like, love Force Awakens, right? Yay, Force Awakens. I love The Last Jedi. Not everyone does. I thought it was a super interesting take. Then Rise of Skywalker came, and they're like, let's do. You can't be half pregnant, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like Amanda, you can verify.
This is true.
Well, actually, most of us can. We all have kids, and just like you can't be half pregnant, and it's just like so. That's what they always did. They're like, well, let's put one toe in and one toe out. We can't really do it. They never did it, and then they got cold feet on everything, and it really just instead of being audacious, like Mando season 2, I think bringing Luke Skywalker
Mhm.
back.
Yes.
I mean, how many of us were all like,
Dude.
Well,
well,
the
it was
way
also
they-
it was also
Standing
the
up.
pandemic and lockdown, so we were all
Well,
going nuts
Yeah.
anyway.
But they did
I
it
was-
well, though. They did it
Yeah.
well, and then they brought in Boba Fett like a badass.
And
They
Mhm.
brought in
Rodriguez,
Ahsoka.
yeah.
Yeah, like to that.
Oh,
That's a
I still
great
think of that
point.
Ahsoka Mando episode. Some of the shots from that is just
Oh, yeah.
incredible.
Phenomenal.
But
Oh, yeah.
that's
The
the thing.
school
they
being
got-
built.
Yeah,
Amazing.
they went for it. Like Randy, you were saying, like they tried to make everyone happy, and they made nobody happy. And now you're like, well, what do you do? So be audacious.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
don't
maybe
worry
this is
about it,
what-
Disney, because you've got thousands of former Suncoast employees podcasting about it. They'll fill in the blanks for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what people like me and Amanda
We've
are
got
for.
They
it
didn't
covered.
hire me, by
Exactly.
the way.
I mean, like I'm.
Rejected me.
I feel like the fan base right now is so like again to Bill's point, like there's such a kind of antagonism that's out there for live action Star Wars. I think an animated
I will
series is
say
the way
this
to
100
go.
times over that Star Wars has the best and worst fan base out
Yeah.
there.
We can't have
Like,
nice
maybe-
things. We can't have nice
No,
things.
we can't.
But to and some of it is valid criticism though, because again, like to Randy's point, there's been it's very cyclical. Like when they are not afraid to hit, they hit and they hit well. When they are just they're wishy-washy. Again, the I think ever since the last trilogy of films, there's just been this 1 foot in, 1 foot out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And it's
telling you,
hurt
in
the
another year,
series.
that last trilogy is gonna be like, oh, it's the greatest thing
Oh
ever.
God, I don't know about. I
mean,
liked the first two
They
movies,
did it to the first
But-
trilogy.
but that was a large part because of Dave Filoni fixing it with the Clone Wars. I think once the Clone Wars came out and you had people watch it, and it went back and it filled in the gaps between it made Anakin seem less emo, and just
Mhm.
and actually have purpose. Less. He was less emo in the series.
He wasn't in the Black Parade on this one.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Yeah, definitely not.
Kylo picked
But-
it up for him though.
There you go. But you got so many Great backstories. And again, you got characters like Ahsoka that were fully fleshed out, beautifully written. You had characters like Asajj Ventress come to life. You had
Mhm.
so many different stories that came in this era that really made you go back and look at the prequels in a different way.
Just think,
Whereas,
George wanted to kill Ahsoka off.
I know, thank God,
Mm.
thank God, that didn't
Yeah.
happen. But you could have something like that may fix some of what's going on.
Mhm.
But really, I think it's ultimately about going back to a lot of people say go back to the book content, and I'm here for
Please
that.
and thank you.
Yeah, because the books are fantastic. The books have done this already, and I've said
Yeah.
this before. The books have already built the world
Mhm.
that's out there. There's all these stories that take place in the Star Wars universe, and so many of them. Like right now with the High Republic books, they're great. They're not connected to the Skywalkers, and you can still have
Nope.
like again, look at and even
They're about
or
1,000 years between
yeah.
2,000 and
Well, look at
1,000
the
years before.
Look at Dawn of the Jedi. Look at look at those stories that are out there,
Mhm.
and I would say continue to if you're going to get away, because I'm a little nervous now about the other movie that we don't know that was announced, but we haven't heard much
Mhm.
about with
Is it Sean
the
Levy?
Sean Levy movie, yeah.
I believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
Ryan
I'm
Gosling
hoping.
one, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping.
the
Yeah,
Ryan
Ryan
Gosling.
Gosling's the only news so far, but that was really it.
He's
And
still only rumored.
rumored, exactly. Not
Yeah.
even totally confirmed, but 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 you have content to work with.
Mhm.
You have, again, the book lore. I know Disney's kind of a stickler about what are we going to make canon, what's not canon, but there's so much great content
Books will
there.
always be canon. I don't care what Disney says.
Yeah, but but that's the thing. They're not. They're kind of they're starting to pull some of that. Like the Acolyte, I think pulled a lot of those ideas, and that's what I enjoyed
Mhm.
about the Acolyte. And we've all talked about it.
Mhm.
Yep.
That some of what made the Acolyte work was the content they pulled from this existing lore and the
Mhm.
speculation about who was the Sith going to be that was going to show up. Are they going to bring in somebody? People who've read the books
Mhm.
are really curious about that, and you can bring them in if you pull in those elements and make them work. So I think it's again revisiting and looking at some of the book content. Like look at
Yeah.
Thrawn, like and how epic of a
You go
character
buy
he
his
is.
trilogy. If you
Yeah,
don't own his trilogy,
go
go get it.
yeah. And I mean, I'm here. I'm in favor of looking at the books for ideas.
I will
Amanda,
say right now,
I have a question for Amanda, real quick. X-Men '97, great. So they continue.
phenomenal.
They continue. That's the continuation of the original X-Men animated
Mhm.
series. Such like, do you think they could do that with like Clone Wars or Rebels or something like that, where they could take characters from a beloved animated series
Makes sense.
and
Yeah.
can continue it with some of the vocal cast that's already there? Obviously, like,
No, great
so,
question.
so do you think that could work? I don't, because I don't know.
Realistically, Rebels is your best shot, and they've already done it because if you're trying to work in the Mando universe and time
Right, right.
frame, you already are starting to pull characters like Zeb.
Mhm.
Again, you've pulled Ahsoka, you've
That's
pulled
right.
Hera,
Yep.
Sabine. You're pulling them into the live action.
Chopper.
And Chopper, of course, the greatest droid that ever lived.
The
War
massive.
criminal. I love
Yeah.
him. Wah, 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 yeah. I'm here for it. But I think you can. But if you're going to continue any of the animated series, like Clone Wars has a definitive
You're right. It
stop
does have a
end.
different
Yeah.
ending.
Rebels, in essence, was the continuation
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
in the time frame of the Clone Wars. So I mean, that's like considered a sequel series, if you will. But if you're going to carry over any of the characters, it would most certainly be those from Rebels. So you can, I think if you're going to go the animated route, you can do it incorporating Rebels characters. It's just going to be, and I mean, some of them did carry over. I mean, Hera, you could even carry Hera and Kanan's son over. They started doing
Yeah.
that with Rise of Skywalker because their ship, the Ghost, is in
That's
the
right.
fight.
Yep.
So you can technically even carry a series where it's Jace. You're following Jace Syndulla.
Yeah.
Or Jace Syndulla, and that could work in an animated format. So that's a way to bring over the characters. But again, as long as Dave is allowed to write and do what he needs to do and is able to focus on
Mhm.
writing, because that's what made the content of the animated series, so both of them, so good, was the writing and the stories and the time to let those things flesh out. If he has too much on his plate, you can write and some people have talked about with some of the shorts that have come out with Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the
Mhm.
Empire, there's been hits or miss with some of those. Like they're not as consistently good as those in the animated, again, Clone Wars and Rebels. If you don't have Dave Filoni doesn't have the space to write, then you have to be careful with that too, because you don't want to start dinging the animation or the animated series and start having that take a turn.
Tales of the Empire is a good example of that.
Yeah.
I knew that's what you were talking about.
I just have to say, ever since you brought up my guy Chopper, all I could think about was he would have such a good time hanging with GI Robot.
Yes.
They would just be murdering bitches left and right.
Yeah.
And then throw Smee in there. Can we have
I'm telling you,
crossover?
let's do a droids episode. Let's get everyone in there. And
Hell
let's
yeah.
just go.
So I will put
Creature
this out there.
Commandos with droids.
There is a comic book out there called Dark Droids.
Yes, there is.
Phenomenal series. The ending of that series, top notch. Comic book
C-3PO kills a
stuff.
guy.
He does in this actually, but he was possessed by. I'll put it like this: in Darth Vader's head isn't just Anakin Skywalker. I will leave it at that.
That's Natalie Portman. She's in all our heads. Son of a bitch. It's like Black Swan incepted C-3PO. Fuck.
Who's ready to see her in Ahsoka season 2 flashback, y'all? Because that's in conversation.
Let's fucking go.
I'm ready. Bring it.
Let's see her in Avengers Doomsday. Let's go.
I'm ready for it. I will take Natalie Portman in anything they'll give it to us in. Let's wrap it up, guys. Did this finale deliver? We'll leave it at that. Did it deliver? Or would you want more substance out of it?
I'm going to say it worked perfectly fine for me. I thought it was a good payoff. We get our boy Jude, sails off into the sunset. He didn't get captured, so he lives to ride another day. The kids have their adventure. Like Wim ultimately has the adventure he's always wanted with his dad. That's what he wanted. He wanted his dad to pay attention to him, to be his not just
be a parent.
Yeah, to be involved in his life. And I mean that was a big thing. And I think that message was delivered. And they all became actual friends instead of just a bunch of kids thrown together. And I think that's what they all needed. And I think it paid off beautifully. It's just like it's a nice, simple, happy ending. And I'm good with that.
Amanda.
It delivered for me too. I think it closed the chapter on this story effectively, but yet still left breathing room for I think Wim is probably the most likely of the children, although I would love to see Neil in a future project, but I think Wim is the most likely to show up in a future Star Wars project.
Maybe in like a Rogue Squadrons, perhaps.
Yeah, could be. So
come on, you gotta have Neil in that too, just to be his nervous his goose.
I know.
His wingman.
Hopefully better faith than Goose. Hopefully.
Yeah, I was thinking more like his Cameron from Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, I like it. I like it.
God.
That'd be so great. I like that they left the ending for Jude Law open to return. I think he's the most likely of the characters to show up in a future Star Wars project. I would love to see him show up in somebody like Hondo Ohnaka's crew would be great.
So we didn't mention
Hondo
this, but Hondo Ohnaka's ship was at the space.
It was
Pirates post.
It was.
What was it? Episode 1.
Yes.
Hondo was there. We
Or
just
2.
didn't see Hondo.
Episode 2.
It was either 1 or 2. So I thought that was a cool one. I will always pop for Hondo. I don't care. Hondo's
Bring me
my guy.
Hondo. Bring me Hondo.
Well, Randy, what'd you think?
Well, as we know, the execs over at Disney are always tuned into my podcast drops because they know that I've got my finger on the pulse of the industry and whatnot. And listen, Disney, I loved this show. Give me more of it. That being said, I didn't think the finale fully worked for me.
Okay.
I don't have horrible things to say about it, but the main reason it didn't fully work for me is I loved this show, but I think the sweet spot of it was episodes 5 and 6, where we were the gooniest, where the kids were on their own, surviving on their own the most. And I was a little bit bummed out that we took 2 episodes mostly to just like get the parents back involved, like solve this big mystery of Atten. I would have preferred to see them out there adventuring, like just kind of continuing to become pirates, or at the very least solve it on their own, stay a little bit more in this sort of like fantasy-esque environment a little bit more. That's giving me, like when that big crab creature comes out, I'm getting shades of like the Never-Ending Story
Yeah.
and all these stories where kids have to like endure completely on their own, and it lost like a little bit of that magic for me in those closing 2 episodes. I think that's why I've been throwing so much shade on the parents, is that like, like KB and Neil really get sidelined for the finale. Like I
They
love
do, yeah.
Neil. I love that he accesses that turret and buys them some time, but like they do all that so that the parents are back in, and we're losing the time with that friendship. So I wish it had gone a little bit differently. But I am also not one who's going to trash on creatives, because I love what they did with this show, and it is not my show to make, and I think they did a phenomenal job.
Very true. I can't argue that. I agree with the parents part. The parents did kind of. It's always the parents, man. Parents ruin shit. Just ask my daughter. But that is it, guys. I know the plan was to get a little, hey, what are you watching in an anime? But we've gone 2 hours. I think we'll call it here. So we'll do the traditions. We'll start with Bill. Bill, tell the folks where they can find you.
Don't need to follow me, but follow thepopbreak.com every single day. We're turning out a lot of great content right now. Our music section is ramping up. I'm doing a lot more interviews these days. Got a whole bunch coming out. We're going to be talking with believe it or not, I have got 3 interviews in 3 days. First one is a surf rock band out of Poland called Igor Jeziak and the Surfers. Yeah, they're one of one out there, and they're actually really great. That's part of our High Tide interview series, which is an international surf label out of Freehold, New Jersey. So it's really awesome.
Nice.
Thursday we're gonna be doing Surfing for Daisy, which is they're doing a record release party. They're an independent band at Asbury Park. Really awesome, big things on the way for them. And then should be Friday, the band Gangsta Grass. They'll be playing locally. They did the theme song to Justified. They have a new record out. They are awesome. So
season 1, right?
No, they did the whole series, I believe.
For Primeval too?
No, for Justified.
I know, but the second.
No, not Prime. I don't know if they did Primeval.
Okay.
But I know they did the original series.
That was so good.
They put a new album out. If you're like, hey, country and bluegrass and hip hop don't mix, no, they make it work. And they're all from the Northeast, which is weird. So go check that out. Those are my pieces that are coming out on thepopbreak.com. Follow us on all forms of social media at the Pop Break. Except for YouTube, we are at popbreak.com, all spelled out. I'm the co-host of the Socially Distance podcast, which drops every single Thursday with Amanda Rivas. Tomorrow, we are going to be recording our episode on your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man with Dr. the Wife for Face for Wrestling. We completing our full month of the spotlighting the Texas independent wrestling scene. So we're going to be talking about that.
Oh, it comes out tomorrow.
Comes out tomorrow. Don't
yeah,
worry,
that's right.
We got this all taken care of.
I was like,
and then and then the following week we're going to be doing our final NFC East group therapy session for the 2024 NFL season
for all of you.
I'm fine. I'm perfectly good. Not our Eagles fan. He's going to be doing well. So we got that going up. I'm also the Bill and the Bill versus the MCU podcast. On Friday, we're dropping our Marvel TV recap. I guess I don't know what the hell it's called. We talk about Echo and Agatha along with myself and Alex Marcus. And then finally, I am with TV Break, which is our monthly TV podcast. Find TV Break and Bill versus the MCU on the Pop Break feed on all your favorite streaming platforms, socially distance on all your favorite streaming platforms as well. And then Amanda and I are joining the old chairman's buddy, Kelvin, will be on the BCP Plus live Thursday night, 10 p.m. Royal Rumble predictions. My favorite WWE PLE. I said it. It's a pay-per-view, but whatever. It's PLE, I guess. Is my favorite one they do every single year. Doesn't matter how good or bad the product is. I am glued to that TV every single year. And don't forget, Amanda and I are doing our first column together too on the Pop Break. We're doing
Nice.
dueling Royal Rumble predictions. You'll see that Friday. So.
Ooh.
That sounds
Amanda,
awesome.
we'll jump up to you since, you know,
Yeah.
he's giving you the flowers.
Bill got me
Every day.
writing, so yes, he does.
That is my goal for everyone. So
He's the best. So I'm excited to write and write first wrestling column. I'm excited. I've already started doing my homework, and I think some of my predictions I think will not surprise Bill and everybody, but some of them are going to be like, oh, we're going there. All
Are y'all
right.
doing the full 30-man roster? Who you expect to show up in the 31 roster?
we'll try our best.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll try our best. I think we're going to try
got
our
surprises.
best.
We have our surprise lists.
And we don't even know from each other. We're not going to find out
we're doing
until...
it blind. We're doing it blind. I won't know until we're going to have it done before BCP on Thursday, and then I will put it together, and we'll pretty much know what we're saying by then.
Yes.
But yeah, we do no idea who the other person is picking.
Yes, and it's exciting. So so definitely excited to do that. And of course, as Bill mentioned, we'll be on the BCP Plus, and it's going to be great because I always love talking wrestling with the wrestling peeps, and it's going to be fun. Of course, Bill talked about that I am the co-host of the Socially Distanced, and it's a blast. It's just so much fun, you guys.
It's always fun.
Of course, everybody here has been on. And so I'm looking forward to having everybody back again. So check us out. Of course, I am the co-host of the Anime Pop podcast with my anime brother and Bill and my mutual co-host, Josh Sarnecki. We have a great time geeking out on different anime that are coming out every month with a great group of guests and friends. And just it's a great time. Our current episode that's out right now is on Solo Leveling Season 2 and Sakimoto Days. And that is with our wonderful friends over at the Blurred Watchers, Marshall and Courtney Stevenson. And it was such a great conversation. And of course, this coming month we'll be covering season 2 of both My Happy Marriage and The Apothecary Diaries. So we're excited. Get a little romance theme. It is Valentine's. It's the month of love. It's appropriate. So we're excited.
Sakimoto Days falls into that too.
It does because you can't kill. Otherwise, you'll get a divorce.
And you get kicked out of the family because you've been adopted.
This is true. So it's a great anime.
There are so many things that happen in that one sentence.
Yes, you got to watch it, Bill. Actually,
you got to watch it. It's really good.
I think I put it. Did I add it to my list? I might have added it to my list.
Move it to the top. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm really finishing Shogun. I'm actually doing my watch of Shogun right now, so I can finally get to that by the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I may do a rewatch of that one actually.
Shogun is great. It's great stuff. So, but check us out every month. We drop all of our anime randomness, and we love it. And so, thank y'all for listening. And of course, you can follow me at Amandalorian on Instagram and Threads, at ReserChick, at Blue Sky, because I love Nine Inch Nails forever. And of course,
every time I go to tag you on Blue Sky,
new album drop.
New tour. I'm ready for a tour too. I'm like,
everything.
It's gonna happen. We just got to pick our city. We're but we're going.
It's funny. Every time I go to tag her on Blue Sky, I'm like, oh wait, back. Resnors. Randy, over to you. Where can the people find you at?
Listen, so first and foremost, I would love for folks to look up media/lit wherever you get your podcasts. We just completed our first year of podcasting together. My co-host Chris and I. On this show, it's really a show about celebrating art and story and why it means so much to us, why it makes us feel more human, feel more alive. It's about getting to know our guests, and sometimes it's about playing pop culture themed games, which can be a huge blast. We love to do all of those things. If you look up our pod, you're going to see a huge variety of topics. We will cover things like Marvel and Batman movies and nerd culture. We will cover more recent properties like Bill just recently completed the first in our Knives Out series. We looked back at the first film. We're going to be doing Glass Onion at some point in the not too distant future. And of course, we'll get together for Wake Up Dead Man when that releases. But we'll go anywhere. I am currently in the midst of editing a 4-hour podcast a 7-person panel that is a draft of Taylor Swift songs, masterminded by the great Alex Marcus, podcasting director of the Pop Break. This is going to be our kickoff event for
Brutal.
season 2 of Media Lit. And the things that
I heard it
people
was great.
shared on this podcast were incredible and personal. It was so fascinating. We got some really cool guests from a podcast called Space Swifties, which is a Star Wars / Taylor Swift podcast. So it was quite an event. It was not supposed to be
podcast
4
for
hours,
everything.
but it was an event. So somehow I'm going to have that up by Monday, February 3rd, and I hope people will check it out. But yeah,
Yes.
so we're on Blue Sky, we're on Twitter, Instagram, media.lit.pod at Instagram, media-lit at Blue Sky. But basically find our episodes. You can find our website. We've got all of our different segments and things broken down there. In addition to my work on Media Lit, I am a huge contributing member to the Pop Break. In podcasting. Next week, you're going to hear me podcasting about Taylor Swift, but right now you can hear me podcasting about Black Sabbath on Pod of Doom with Justin and Chris Mancini. We just dropped our Sabbath Bloody Sabbath podcast yesterday. That just released.
I added it to the queue.
Thank you. And I'm also doing a lot of television coverage over at the Pop Break. Bill was insane enough to agree to let me cover Severance week to week.
Sounds about right. That's legit.
I delivered with 9 pages on the second episode of season 2 of Severance.
5,000 words.
Yeah, it's awakened my imagination. Let's just
the
say
inner
that
teacher
much.
in him. The inner teacher is assigning himself term papers. 5,000 words, double spaced, 10-point font.
But yeah, check us out. And of course, check out my co-host, Chris Ingersoll, also on the Pop Break, co-host of Batman by the Numbers, an incredibly kind guy, an incredibly smart guy, and an incredible set of pipes on that one. What a voice.
Yeah, except when he starts trapping his ass. And it's great. It's my favorite thing in the world. Jeff, I just got to put over both Amanda and Randy real quick. Amanda's been, we're entering our 6th season, I should say. Episode 250 going to be this year. Couldn't have done this without Amanda. Amanda's one of the best to do a podcast with. There's, like Randy said, she's everyone's big sis. So it's been great. And Randy, congratulations on 1 year Media Lit.
Yes.
He's a hell of a dude, hell of a podcaster. But if you have to read what he writes, I know you're gonna say 9 pages on goddamn Severance. What the fuck? But read his stuff. It is so masterfully written. It's just like some A+ level writing. And Jeff, I have to put you over, my friend. Thank you for having us on this podcast. Thank you for always being a constant supporter of us at the Pop Break and Randy at Media Lit. It means the world to us that you always share our content. It means the world that you can come on our show and talk to us, be a part of Pop Break. And for letting us come out and be a part of your first ever live stream, although not your first ever live stream, but we're glad to be a part of it, and we're glad we have you in our life.
Definitely be. Yeah. I didn't realize I was going to have to wait 24 hours to go live on YouTube.
What's instructions?
It's the fucking fine print. I ain't reading that shit.
Jeff, thank you.
Print?
Thank you so much, Jeff, because I've loved becoming a creator in this past year. But what I've loved just as much as that is the community that comes with podcasting and entertainment writing. Yeah. And you are such an active and thoughtful and caring member of that community. So thank you so much for the support.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely,
yes.
Man.
It's always a blast. Thank you.
I appreciate the kind words. They do mean a lot. And anytime I get invited on to anybody's podcast, I try to put everything into it. And when Bill invites me to write something, that to me means the world, that he trusts this illiterate Alabamian to write for him. And
don't worry, there's going to be more.
I know, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I love it. So what's going on with me? Last night I got the opportunity to read a new Kickstarter out there by Bruno Caterino from the UK.
Of course, a great British name, Bruno Caterino.
I know, right? And it was a really good comic book. I was surprised. I was not expecting what I got from it. And when I literally say, like, you will be surprised on who is experiencing these very human emotions in this book. And it got my seal of approval. So it's up right now on the dfpn.com. And there's been 2 books that I put my seal of approval on over on Kickstarter. I was invited to read, and both of them were phenomenal. And that's why they're both hanging right now on the dfpn.com under comics. And if you have a Kickstarter out there that you would like me to read and possibly put my seal of approval on, hit me up. I'm not hard to find. It's the chairman at USDNpodcast.com. That's my plug for that. Shameless. I'd love to read your comic books and tell you what I think about them. But you can find me at across all social media platforms at USDN Podcast. So for Blue Sky, you can find me at the USDN chairman over there on Blue Sky. And it's a little bit more personable. I do share a lot more of the comic book stuff over there and do a lot more with comic book interactions with the writers and that kind of stuff. So what's coming up for me? Tomorrow is New Comic Book Day, so you can expect that episode sometime tomorrow. I'd love to say I was going to shoot it today, but I don't get my comic books until tomorrow. So I'll shoot that tomorrow after work sometime. Some point next week, I'll be sitting down with Bruno Caterino from the UK. We're just trying to figure out a good day and time to sit down, and he's going to come on and tell us about his new comic book called Bereavement that is live right now on Kickstarter. So awesome. I'm really excited to sit down with him and talk to him about his new book and hopefully get some eyes on it and maybe some support for him in his new comic book, because it really was good. Yeah, it was good. The art was phenomenal. If you're a fan of like the newer style art that's out right now, like it almost looks AI, but you can tell there's a human behind the pencil doing it, then you'll enjoy the art in it as well. Mm-hmm. That's it for me. Randy, since you are the new guy, I want to take the time now to welcome you. You are official. You have gained the seal of approval from the chairman. You are officially a council member. It comes with tons of responsibility. It's mainly just like, hey, dude, you want to do a show on this randomly throughout the month is what you get out of that. There's no real perks, just random invites to podcasts and that kind of stuff. So welcome to the team, Randy. We appreciate you coming on tonight. Amanda, as always, I appreciate you. Anytime I'm talking Star Wars, you don't even need the invite. Just show up at the door.
Dude,
you'll be
I'm so honored to be on the board. Thank you so much for having me. Can't wait to get you on Media Lit and make you an official.
We're going to find.
And it'll be awesome.
We're going to get us a topic together, and we're going to rock one hell of a fucking show. I am not kidding you.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that is it. I want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. I've seen we had about 5 viewers at one point. I do appreciate each and every one of you who are sticking around. I still see I have one person watching. So I appreciate that one person for sticking around and watching and supporting the podcast. I know we got off topic a few times, but fuck it. That's the fun of this, right? But on behalf of myself, my Council of Nerds, and my newest Council of Nerd member, thank you all for tuning in. And on behalf of myself and this fine council sitting in front of me, this show is USDN approved. It's supposed to play my outro. Why ain't it playing my outro?
It's a trap!